Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and today we have another installment of From Sacko to Shiva. So today we're going to go over, some quick notes, news, stuff we want to talk about, and then we're going to do a quick top 10 draft going back and forth. I'll start off, Chase will come in, do the next one, then we'll go back and forth, kind of.
And this is not a fantasy draft. This is how we think the actual NFL draft will play out. How we think these players best fit in these teams.
Yep. But before we get started, hey, let me ask you about Marcus Peters. What did you think about the trade?
I think it was the dumbest trade I think I've ever seen. And it's just because the way I look at it, and I've told you this multiple times, I've told a lot of people this multiple times, yeah, you can let him leave via free agency and get a third round comp pick. But what a lot of people don't realize is because he's considered a restricted free agent after his rookie contract, they could put a first-round tender on him, and he's going to sign somewhere else. And that just gives the Chiefs the option to match the contract or let him walk for a first round. Like, that, if that's your best option, you turn, like, I don't know what Brett Veach was thinking. Obviously, hasn't been a GM for very long. But you got to sit there and think about it. Like, if you're that naive at being a GM, you don't need that job.
Yeah, I had a problem with the trade, too. I didn't think they got enough value back just for the talent alone.
A two-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the trade.
Leads the league in the past 3 years in interceptions and pass defenses combined.
They did bring in Kendall Fuller in the trade, and they brought in David Amerson.
For the Marcus Peters trade, everybody on 6'10", which drove me nuts. Like, I listened to him a lot, but it drove me nuts because they're like, and keep in mind, I'm an Eagles fan, so I know about Washington. I watch Washington games. Yep. They're division rivals for us. So I'm sitting there. They're talking about how Kendall Fuller is one of the best corners in the league, that he's like a shutdown corner on the outside. And I'm like, you all have obviously never watched a Washington game because it's Brashad Breeland on the left, Josh Norman on the right, and Kendall Fuller is the nickel. He comes in as a slot only.
Yep.
Only. He had lined up on the outside, I think it was something like 20 snaps in the season. And, like, I understand he's good. Don't get me wrong. He's top 3 slot corner in the league. Has a high upside. But that doesn't necessarily translate to the outside. Like, the Eagles made a bad decision on signing Byron Maxwell to a stupid contract years ago on the outside when he was strictly a slot corner who was targeted very minimum. I'm just saying, it doesn't always translate.
Pro Football Focus had him graded as a number 3 defensive back, but most of that was done in the slot.
Yeah. I was excited. I was like, okay, you bring Kendall Fuller in on the outside on the left. You put Marcus Peters on the right. And put David Amerson on the slot. And then if David Amerson struggles or Kendall Fuller struggles, you can just flip-flop them.
Yeah, it was before the trade. I thought they had good depth and they were ready to go into the season as their strong point. Now I think it just became another weakness, and now you got to try and address that in the draft or free agency again.
I mean, they did free up a lot of cap space. I think they have like $33 million right now available.
They're getting close to 33.
And, I think they could make a splash out there, maybe like an EJ Gaines who's from Lee Summit. Like, that could be, maybe he wants to come back to Kansas City. I could see something like that. I'm not saying EJ Gaines is great. I just think he is a viable outside corner. Like, he's not going to, like, if he is asking too much, you don't pay him as a top corner in the league.
No.
You pay him as a second corner.
Yeah.
But I think it could be worth it.
Chad Smith and I talked about a couple guys that were coming back from injuries. One guy from Oakland, one guy from Tampa Bay. Not going to be the top end guys, but they're going to be good enough guys.
Or I mean, somebody that had a career year, that was on a 1-year deal last year, maybe Patrick Robertson. Like,
man, he's going to be expensive.
He's going to be expensive. Or try and do this. If you want to imitate what the Super Bowl champs just did, look at it this way. How about Colvin from Jaguars, who kind of had a down year? Bring him in on a 1-year prove-it deal, or maybe like a 2-3 year like cheap deal. Bills did with Junior. Or Jordan Poyer,
Yep.
who was drafted by the Eagles, went to the Browns, was dealing with injuries, had his best year at the Browns, and then the Bills gave him a 4-year, $16 million guaranteed contract, like I think a max of like $22 million.
Yeah, and the
kid just had
he played
ridiculous year, like top 5 safety.
Yeah,
in the
he
league.
balled.
Like, sometimes take a chance on somebody like that. I understand you did that with David Amerson, 1 year, $6 million, but maybe I think Colvin could be a good corner who, in the right system, maybe get rid of Bob Sutton. And I'm probably going to get some hate on this.
We both will.
A lot of people are going to hate on Bob Sutton. Yeah, I don't like Bob Sutton. But you can't blame just him when the talent on that defensive side of the ball was not good.
It wasn't. I agree with you. It wasn't there.
Like, you have old, bad contracts, players who are injury riddled, like players who have contracts that would not be making that money on any other team. Who I blame is already gone, and that's John Dorsey.
And he gets another shot in Cleveland. But yeah, they got old in a hurry.
Yeah, really quickly. Like, the credit I give to John Dorsey is Marcus Peters. At the same time, everybody, like, I was like, I liked him, but I didn't want the Eagles to draft him at the time because I was like, he punched a coach at UW. And I was like, people don't realize, I was like, man, he has problems with authority. Yeah, I understand he had that thing saying Big Red and him are tight. That's fine. I think that's more of the problem than the kneeling thing. Like, I think it's how he treats the staff.
And he's not the only guy that's done these types of things on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Travis Kelce.
One, which
makes it seem really racist by Hunt. Like, and I'm not trying to, like, go there, but that's kind of how it seems.
It's a possibility.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, maybe he's not, but at the same time, in these recent years, we've seen a lot of big-time sports teams owners come out and you see that they're racist or see something like that. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't care either way. I still don't think you let your personal bias judge getting rid of a top corner. I won't call him a shutdown corner because a lot of people don't realize, in man, he wasn't that good. But if you put him in coverage where he could play the ball, that man was going to take the ball every time.
Yeah.
Like, every time.
And not only that, but he was making plays on plays that weren't his to be made. Like, he was coming across the field and causing a fumble, or coming across the field and tipping a ball.
But at the same time, a lot of people don't realize every time he did that, there was also a play just to sit there and go for a touchdown, where he kind of got lackluster. And maybe it's because he kind of checked out in Kansas City after the fan. Like, I'm not saying all fans, but the city kind of turned on him when he started doing that protest. And it was rumored that he asked for a trade, is what I was hearing the other day.
I heard that also, but I don't think he really did. You know, when you come to an organization, you want to feel welcomed, and you want to feel a part of that, and you want it to become your family, and you want everybody to like you. And I don't think he ever got that. Like, I don't think he ever got the welcome side from the organization.
I do like the one thing that, like, the one person he really stood up for, and a lot of people, like, want to talk bad about him, but it's Alex Smith. He was upset that Alex Smith got traded. He said it. He's like, that man don't turn the ball over. Everybody hates on him, et cetera, et cetera. Like, he took it like a man. Like, you all would throw him under the bus, and he took it like a man. I was like, man, you got to give him credit, because Alex Smith, he was a good quarterback. You're not, like, he went out there and did everything he could. Like, and he said, he's like, Alex Smith did everything he could to win that game for us in Tennessee, and we lost him the game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
and that right there, like, with all this stuff going on, people liking Marcus Peters, people disliking him, that made me like him a little bit more, that he came out there and stood up for Alex Smith, who was a guy who consistently just got crapped on.
I agree. It was amazing to listen to that interview. So the trade was Marcus Peters in a sixth.
Which, why'd they have to put in a sixth?
I didn't get that. But, you know, it's a throwaway pick at the end that you don't really care about. 4.
You know, sometimes, okay,
once in a while,
Tom
it does
Brady,
happen.
like,
it does happen,
like,
but
I know he wasn't a sixth. He was, what, a fifth-round pick? Like, anything could happen, like, if you had the right scouting. But, yeah, I got what you're saying.
For this year's third and next year's second.
This year's fourth.
This year's fourth. Next year's second.
Okay. Which is like getting next year's third, because they're gonna be in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I mean,
so they're going to be late.
Made an injury, so it's going to be a late second. It's like getting a third. And which is why, I didn't agree with the trade. But I'm not Brett Veach. I don't make that kind of money, so who am I to say?
Yeah, I don't know either. It's not
all
right.
So another trade had just happened. You got Robert Quinn from the Rams going to the Dolphins with some picks involved. I think they're getting a fourth and a sixth, and essentially they're recouping the picks they just gave up from Marcus Peters and giving up the sixth that they just got from Kansas City. It's the way that it looked like to me.
Yeah,
like,
and getting cash, because they have 3 free agents they're trying to resign.
It just freed them up to $55 million cap this year, which tells me they're bringing back Junior. Mm-hmm. They're going to make a hard push for Tremaine Johnson.
Yep.
And
Sammy
I think
Watkins.
they franchise tag Sammy Watkins.
That's what I think too. I think that's going to be the plan.
Because, I mean, obviously you don't have to franchise tag Tremaine Johnson, but maybe Tremaine Johnson's like, oh, you brought in Peters. I want to be in that secondary now.
Yeah, with him, that's deadly.
Yeah, well, him Joyner,
yeah, that's crazy.
That becomes like one of that not quite what Jacksonville has, but it becomes scary. But yeah, no, that was an interesting move. But
I think it is too. Miami gets a better pass rush. Possibly
Kansas City tried getting Robert Quinn from him.
Yeah.
And I really thought that would, like, when I first heard the trade, I told you, I was like, they had to be getting Donald, like Aaron Donald, like straight up, because he didn't want to be there last year. He wanted out, but maybe, and I was sitting there, I was like, well, maybe it's Robert Quinn. Like, you get Robert Quinn and a third, which I think's a good deal.
That would have been a great deal.
Like, I understand Robert Quinn's 28, 29?
He's getting up there, and
he still has 29 and a half sacks. Like, he's a good player, and they need depth on that defensive line. So that's what I thought they're going for, but Rams wouldn't have it.
Hey, well, I mean, they actually looks like they have a plan in place. The Rams, I say anyway. Yeah. It looks like they have a plan in place.
And what I was saying before any of these moves, the Chiefs don't scare me this coming up year. I feel like, and I know people hate this word, but I feel like this is a rebuild year, not a full rebuild, not like the 76ers have been the last couple of years and stuff like that, or like what Boston went through for years, the Celtics. But when I look at it, I'm just like, okay, they're going to spend this next year rebuilding and gauging their talent. But if you look at their 2019 cap space, that scared me. I was like, their cap space, the talent they should have, they'll be having more picks this year and next year. I was like, that team starts to become really scary, and you have a full year of Mahomes already starting. Now, what happens? Like, the one player I would love to see Kansas City like try to make a move on and all that, if he doesn't get franchise tagged, Allen Robinson.
Yeah,
people like I talked to Anthony about it, and he was like, we have DeMarcus Robinson. I understand DeMarcus Robinson's good, but Allen Robinson's a different talent.
Yeah, he's definitely better talent than DeMarcus Robinson.
Yeah, and I don't think Allen Robinson wants to stay in Jacksonville, because if you go back to training camp last year, or joint practices where they were up against Tampa Bay and all that, Robinson went for a catch and all that, and Bortles threw the ball way out of bounds, and he's like you saw, like, he didn't mean to say it because he didn't know he was being recorded at that point, but he was like, cameras are everywhere. He's like, keep the ball in balance, fucking, and I was just
he was pissed.
I was like, oh wow, I was like, so clearly he has some frustrations with him, and like, I hope he doesn't stay in Jacksonville. I hope that man gets a chance somewhere else.
Me too.
Maybe for the Bears, maybe for Baltimore, but I would love to see him to come to KC, because that gives a threat off of Travis Kelce and off of Tyreek Hill in the passing game that you have to worry about.
He's big. He's over 6'2". He runs fast. I mean, he's the prototypical wide receiver that you look for. The playmaker. He does everything you want out of a wide receiver, and I don't know if the Chiefs will go that route with him, but I could see it happening. I mean, that would be a great pickup for them.
I agree. I think it would be phenomenal to see that happen.
Hey, before we get to our draft, my non-football question. What kind of ice cream do you like? Like, if we went to Baskin Robbins.
Oh, okay, Baskin Robbins.
And I said, go ahead, your choice. I'm buying.
Cookie dough. It's very generic, but like, it's cookie dough. But like, really, my favorite is Ben & Jerry's Half Baked. There's cookie dough, there's brownies, there's fudge, there's chocolate, there's vanilla. It's the nuts for me.
I hear the.
What about you?
I'm a mint chocolate chip guy.
Okay.
How about soft cone or hard cone?
I like the waffle cones.
Waffle cone's good too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it depends. Like, if it's like Baskin Robbins ice cream, like that, like the hard serve type thing, I want that waffle cone. But if it's like a soft serve from like Dairy Queen, you gotta have that that sugar cone.
I agree.
All right. So, Tom, I'm going to give you the first pick in the 2018 NFL Draft from the Cleveland Browns. I would like to know, who do you think they pick?
Well, with the first pick, this guy had an unbelievable combine already, and we just started. So, it's Saquon Barkley. I'm going to go that route.
You have to. You can't, okay, there is few game-changing talents that you see in the draft, but you can't miss on him. It's one of those things, there's question marks around everybody, but what's your question mark around Saquon Barkley? And if you find one, I'm going to punch you in the throat, because there's none.
The only thing you could possibly say is he doesn't break enough tackles in the backfield, but that's such a minute, small thing that it makes very little difference.
If you're having to worry about breaking tackles in the backfield, your O-line is not doing it. Like, your O-line is to blame in that situation. If they're I understand sometimes you got to do a pull and plug, but that's what he excelled in if you paid attention. Like, if you watched him on pull and plug, boom, he like bursts through the hole and all that. He knows how to be patient. He has the acceleration at 233 pounds, ran a 4.41.
It's ridiculous.
Like jumped 41 inches and benched 29 reps. You know who else benched 29 reps this year? Bradley Chubb, a defensive end.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying that's crazy.
Barkley put on a show at the Combine.
And like I told you before and all that, I think the Cleveland Browns are the best landing place for Kirk Cousins.
I do too. You put Cousins, Barkley, who they're going to pick next, and their draft.
Okay, but before they even draft, look at their team. You got Myles Garrett on defense. You have a lot of young rookie contracts. You got, was it Jamal Adams, Jabril Peppers,
yeah.
Who's a good, strong safety. So I look at that. I was like, they have a decent defense and all that. And people don't realize that Browns defense stayed within 3 points of the Steelers week 1.
Yep.
Like, the Steelers almost lost that game. The Browns were staying competitive in most of their games throughout the year until Deshaun Kaiser was throwing 2 interceptions to 1 TD. So, and then you look at their offense. You got Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman. Yeah, if he doesn't break his same arm again, like, God forbid. And then David Njoku, who I think could be one of the best talents. Like I told you, like you were big on Evan Ingram, and I didn't disagree with you, but for me, it was David Njoku who I was high on. And it's just, I think he just needs a better quarterback. Like that guy is super talented. And then they got a decent O-line. You put Kirk Cousins back there, and then give him Saquon Barkley with a number 1 overall pick. Like Kirk Cousins would be dumb not to go there, I think. And people don't like. I think, yeah, they're not going to be a Super Bowl threat. But they're definitely a playoff threat this year if that's how it plays out.
I agree. I think they are. You put Cousins into that offense
and
back
don't
like
trade,
Barkley.
Don't trade your 1st or 4th pick.
No,
like,
take them.
You have 4 picks inside the top 35.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous.
Use all of them.
I agree.
Like, don't like John Dorsey. Don't do it. Don't do it. Like let me be there day 1 and day 2. Like, and I promise you, like I can give you the talent. Like, and I'm not even a GM.
It's not that often that you get 2 top 5 picks in a draft, and you have an opportunity to get 2 franchise-changing players in this draft. And to me, it would be stupid if he traded out of them.
So let's move on to pick 2 from the New York Giants if they don't trade it, which would be dumb if they trade it. So with pick number 2, I have the New York Giants selecting Josh Rosen.
Yeah,
they need a quarterback to learn. Like I understand, Pat Schumer said there's still some good years left with Eli. You will ruin that franchise and lose your job as quick as you got it. And I've always liked Pat Schumer, like from the Rams to the Eagles to the Vikings. He's a great tight end coach. So I'd love to see what he does with Evan Ingram. But man, you will lose that job as quick as you do if you don't draft Josh Rosen, because that guy is who you need. But in 2019, that's who you need in 2019. Give him a year behind. Like he probably won't even like sit a whole year. He'll be the starter.
I wouldn't want him playing behind that offensive line anyway.
But I mean, kind of is what it is. Maybe they trade up in the 2nd round or trade up from the 2nd round and get offensive line, because this is one of the deepest offensive line drafts I've seen in a long time. And if people have paid attention to the Combine today, there's some really good names in there. And I'm not saying, like, don't get me wrong, Orlando Brown just had a terrible Combine, but maybe he slips to the 2nd round.
I still say he's going to be in the back half of the 1st round, even.
I mean, he could have been
bad.
a top 10 pick.
Yeah, he definitely could have been.
But I still think he's a 1st round, but maybe he slips because, I mean, it was historically bad.
It was bad.
But, I mean, he's still, the tape is there.
So who do you compare Rosen to in the NFL?
Rosen to in the NFL?
I'll tell you who I compare him to. I see a lot of Phillip Rivers in his game.
Yeah?
Yep.
I'll probably have to say Kirk Cousins. It's a little different, but, like, when I think of him, I kind of think of Kirk Cousins, but maybe it's because of the attitude or the demeanor of it. Like it's kind of hard for me to compare him to somebody. But there is a QB that I think will probably go outside of the top 10. That is one of my favorites. And it's not somebody you think of. Like that, it's not
the guy I think of from the podcast a few times ago that you and Anthony have a bet on.
Oh yeah, no, it is not Baker Mayfield.
Okay.
Like, I'll tell you right now, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, sleeper. People want him to work out as a wide receiver.
And he says no, but, like, when you watch him, what are your questions about him?
The only thing that I see is he's really, really skinny.
Okay, but you can put on weight.
Me.
You can put on weight.
That's
fine. But you know who he reminds me of? A smaller version of Cam Newton.
Yeah.
He has an arm. And Okay, look at it this year. Clemson, when they won the national championship with Deshaun Watson. You're telling me Lamar Jackson couldn't have done that? I think Lamar Jackson would have done just as good as Deshaun Watson. And people want to look like... I look at him as just like Deshaun Watson. But we're getting off topic.
Okay.
Pick number 3.
Pick number 3. That's me, right?
That is you.
I got the Colts picking number 3. I got to go Chubb. I got to go Bradley Chubb. I mean, this defense needs playmakers. They haven't had one in a long time, and everybody's getting older, and that's got to be where they start.
Now, here's a side topic. I know we were going to try and keep this podcast short, but whatever. We're going to have fun with it. All right. So, I heard a rumor that the Colts had sent a feeler about sending Andrew Luck to the Browns for 101, 104, and then the 2 picks inside the top 35 of the second round.
Wow.
And if you're the Browns, don't do it. Don't do it. Because no matter what, the Colts win that trade. You know why? Because they know something you don't.
About Luck.
So I am staying away from Luck. Even if he's healthy, like, I love that guy, but man, I'm staying away from him.
I mean, if Barkley was there at this pick, I would say they would take him, but I don't think Barkley gets past the Giants. So, to me, the next player on the list is Bradley Chubb, and you start off with the safest defensive player on the board.
And for me, like, I have the Browns next with the 4th pick.
Yep.
And real quick, who do you compare Bradley Chubb to in the NFL?
Oh, man.
There is one young defensive end that I compare him to immediately.
I mean, he uses his hands so well, and he sets up double moves. Man, who does that? Oh, Bosa.
There you go.
Bosa.
That's exactly, like, to the T. And Bosa can play left defensive end, right defensive end, tackle, like, both tackles. Like, it's scary. And I think that's Chubb's ceiling, and I think his floor is probably, I mean, it's not a low floor. It's kind of hard to find somebody that would gauge like his floor, but I mean, maybe like a Brandon Graham. I mean, I'm trying to think. That's fine. There's a defensive end with Washington that I'm trying to think of right now that I can't think of. But
I'm trying to think. Junior Galette was there for a while. I like Chubb. I mean, Chubb does things that other defensive linemen and defensive ends in this draft don't do. Like, if you ever watch him, his hands are real quick to the tackles and to the guards. And that's a very underrated talent. And I actually get excited when I see young guys do that. Then he's got double moves. He builds moves off of moves, and that makes him even harder to block.
Who was it? It wasn't Kerrigan, but who's the other guy you said?
Junior Galette.
It might have been him, which, I mean, it's a good safe floor, but I don't know. Maybe it wasn't the Washington.
And here's the problem, right? When you do stuff like this, people see defensive players and like, that's not that great of a pick, but you got to have defensive players.
You do.
It's not the sexy pick. It's just like offensive lineman. It's not sexy, but you got to have them.
Fell to Washington last year that the Eagles were ridiculed for not taking because they took Derek Barnett. And I forget who it was, but not Solomon Thomas, was it?
No, he went to San Francisco. Washington he was a nose tackle. He played at a big college.
All right, so while you look it up, we'll go to the next pick. And the next pick is the Cleveland Browns, and I think you have to go with the versatile safety / cornerback with Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick.
I can't say his first name, Manika or.
I mean, you got to have playmakers. These are 2 huge picks for them to make. So
Jonathan Allen.
There it is. Yeah, from Alabama.
Yes,
defensive end. Yeah.
So you have to go with Fitzpatrick if Chubb's off the board. I feel like for me, I told you Saquon. Like, your number 1 is Saquon Barkley. My number 1 is actually Bradley Chubb. But for me, the only reason I say that is, don't get me wrong, I think Saquon is wholeheartedly the best player in the draft. But when I look at the depth at running back in the draft, that's why I put Chubb in the depth at defensive. That's why Chubb, for me, if I'm a team, becomes my, like, if I can trade from first to second, and, like, the Giants want to take Barkley first overall, and they're going to give me their second round pick or whatever, by all means, do that, because I'll take Chubb. Like, I am happy to do that.
Yeah. Because
I feel like I can get a Ronald Jones, who I'm super high on.
Yep. Later
Rashad Penny, I feel like, is another later round pick that you might be able to hit on. He's a bigger guy than Donnell Pumphrey, who was in USC, or not USC, but San Diego State the year before. Yeah. And I think because of how much bigger he is, he's going to have the longevity a little bit better than Rashad Penny, or than Donnell Pumphrey.
You know, and that's one of the things that have happened in the recent years is running backs have gotten devalued just because there's a lot more of them. You know, you could pick up a guy just to play on third downs, or you could pick up a guy just to play on first and second downs. But when you find a talent like Saquon Barkley or Geis, or trying to think of one of the other ones in this year's draft, Sony Michel, you know, these are all guys that could play on all three downs.
It's such a deep running back class. Like, any one of these guys could be the next Alvin Kamara or be the next Kareem Hunt, like a late round pick. But you can't use that mentality, I guess. Like, this is where I'm kind of like contradicting myself. You can't use that mentality to be like, oh, that's why I don't go after Barkley.
Yeah,
but
you can't do that.
I feel like if someone's going to pay me to get rid of one, like if I have one, I'm going Barkley. But if you're going to if you're going to pay me so you can have Barkley, by all means do that, because I'll take Chubb.
I agree. So next, I got Denver picking 5, right?
Yes.
We all know they need quarterback because they sucked. We all know they need an offensive line because they're still rebuilding that. So I'm looking at Darnold or Nelson. Those are the two guys I'm thinking of.
I actually, yeah. And in my fourth pick for the Browns, I did that with Fitzpatrick because I think Kirk Cousins goes to the Browns.
Yeah, I mean
that's
fine.
The only reason I did that. If they don't, it's Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold is the most pro ready, but like I think Kirk Cousins wholeheartedly goes there.
Yeah, I do too. I mean that'd be a perfect spot for him. So I think Denver sitting this high is going to go with the quarterback and go with Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
I mean I think that's their best bet.
You know, I that's who they should go with. But if you pay attention to John Elway's quarterback drafting, I really think that they would go Josh Allen because he is enamored with the same type, which is a big arm and a big body. And all the ones he picks all happen to be inaccurate.
Yeah, and that's why I think somebody overrules him and says we're going Sam Darnold on this one, and Allen could fall a little bit.
Yeah, I think Allen could be one of the best in the draft, but not in the first 3 years.
Yeah, he's going to need time to develop.
Yes. All right. So with the number 6 pick, this is where I actually think things change a little bit because I thought Josh Allen would probably fall, but I think the Jets would take him if he's available. I don't think they go with Baker Mayfield right there. I think they go with Josh Allen.
Yeah,
and I think it would be a good fit running behind McCown if they have him for one more year.
Yeah, I like that pick for them. I mean, they're looking for a quarterback to get a young one with that kind of talent. That's perfect for what they want to do right there.
Yeah. And I know they're talking about giving guaranteed contracts to Kirk Cousins, but there's no, like, if I look at that roster, there's no reason if I'm Kirk Cousins. Yeah, you're giving me a lot of money, but the Browns can match your money, and the Browns have better talent around.
Yep. They just released, or Matt Forte just retired.
Yeah.
Just to add another something to it.
A lot of people are going to hate on him for what he did in those most recent years, but if you pay attention to what he did with Chicago, that man is one of the few running backs who had, I think it was 3,000-yard seasons from his rookie year.
Yeah, he was phenomenal early on.
I mean, even to the last year with the Bears, he was still phenomenal. And it wasn't until I'm not phenomenal, but he was still a stud.
Serviceable. He was still usable when you needed him to. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Is that me?
That is you.
Man.
Things change really quick.
Yeah. Now, after all the Barkley, Rosen, Chubb, Fitzpatrick, Darnold, Allen went out, to me, this Buccaneers defense has to be addressed. Like, you got to either find a DN.
There's one specific player I have in mind for him.
On my board, I have Josh Jackson, the cornerback out of Iowa, but I think they're going to go with Denzel Ward.
I like Denzel Ward. I knew you were going to say Josh Jackson, but I like Ward the best.
I'll give them Denzel Ward.
I just think if you pay attention to the corners that come out of Ohio State, man, they're just a different type of breed.
They usually play well, and
Garen Conley
last year.
There's some guy who I think won the Defensive Rookie of the Year, Marshawn Lattimore. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. They've had a good string of them.
The next pick is the Chicago Bears, and I think this is a no-brainer. I don't think he's as good as previous years of wide receivers, but they have to address the wide receiver, and it needs to be done immediately. I think the Chicago Bears draft Calvin Ridley.
And, I watched Ridley a few times, and it's always hard for me to sit there and watch and see a guy in college only catch 3 balls and, go 75 yards, maybe get a touchdown, maybe not. I want to see more out of my number one wide receiver than what Ridley has been doing. but I understand that his talent was held back because of their quarterback. Quarterback wasn't quite as accurate, so I understand that the Bears have to go this route.
And people, I understand Mitch Trubisky has a lot of talent. I'm high on Mitch Trubisky. I'm keeping him in my dynasty league because I can only keep 3 starting quarterbacks. I'm keeping him, and it's a 2 QB league because, 1, I have him cheap, but 2, I think he can be a breakout player like Jared Goff from last year. And it's just because, I mean, if you pay attention to how, like, with Matt Nagy, I was like, that's another reason why I'm keeping him. But, like, there's games that he only threw the ball 15 times last year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Through, not completions, through.
Yeah, that's crazy.
There was one game, 8 completions, and 1. Okay? That's crazy.
My other question here on Ridley. Ridley comes in at 6'1", maybe 6'1.5", about 200 pounds. Cortland Sutton is coming in at 6'4", a bigger-bodied wide receiver with possibly the same skills.
See, I was actually going to ask you, like, after we talk about this, I was like, do you think Cortland Sutton makes a break in the top 10? Like last year was a weird year. You had John Ross, Corey Davis, and Mike Williams all go in the top 10. And I think only one of them really deserved it, and it wasn't Mike Williams. I think it was Corey Davis that deserved to be in the top 10.
Yeah, I like Corey Davis. I'm still in love with. He's one of my favorites from last year's draft.
If you look at him in college, he was one of the most consistent wide receivers. So, but yeah, I think Chicago Bears is
Calvin Ridley.
Okay. Now, the coin flip is done. San Francisco has the 9th overall pick. Oakland picks 10th.
Jimmy Garoppolo still hasn't lost.
7-0. Like, I think everybody says he was worth more than a second round pick. I think, I think he was really worth. I think second round was perfect because, 1, it's an expiring contract. So, he's going to ask to get paid after this year anyways. Mm-hmm. You're getting value for him. So, people don't realize that drives value down right there. And 2, you've only watched him play 2 games. The sample size is so small. And yeah, he looked really good in those 2 games. But you got to pay attention. Like, sample size, it means more than a lot of other things. Like, that's why I didn't understand giving him that. He's getting paid $37.8 million in year 1 of his contract.
It's a crazy contract.
I mean, that's the only way San Francisco was going to get him to sign there is such a front-loaded contract.
It's a huge contract. And you know what? When the Patriots made the trade, if they pick in the top 5 in the second round, I'm sure they were happy with that because, they invested a back second round to get him. So, I mean, it's a win for them, I think. That's how you look at that.
I completely agree. And I do like Jimmy Garoppolo a lot. So.
Oh, me too. But is it my pick? Yep, San Francisco, my pick? Man, this is another one where I'm looking at Nelson the guard. I'm looking at Josh Jackson again and Roquan Smith the linebacker. And I'm thinking to myself, which one of these guys makes the most sense for San Francisco? And I'm going with Nelson. I think you could plug him in, let him play, and possibly a Pro Bowl in his first year.
That's somebody I had a hard time with that. Like, if I had the Tampa Bay, if I didn't, I could have gone Quentin Nelson for Tampa Bay because they need some O-line help. Do. But I think that defense is just, again, it being a deep O-line draft, I think you can fix it elsewhere. Yeah. But yeah, you said you're going Nelson?
I'm going Nelson.
That kind of makes my pick a little bit tougher for pick 10 because there is 3 linebackers I love in this draft. I wish all of them would fall to pick 32, but that's not happening. So for me, it comes down to 2 at this spot, either Tremaine Edmonds or Roquan Smith.
Yep.
Now, Roquan Smith is a little undersized, so I think they go with Tremaine Edmonds. They are both freakish athletes. Like, I can't wait to see their combines. I'm really excited about both of them. I think Roquan Smith is a little bit more talented, but I think Tremaine Edmonds is overall, like, Roquan Smith, I think, is a sideline-to-sideline linebacker. He can chase down the ball anywhere. I think Tremaine Edmonds just has the size, though, to be able to play the ball, play in coverage, and rush the passer. So, and I mean, they're both going to be inside linebackers.
Yeah, they definitely got to address that defense. They got Khalil Mack on defense and Khalil Mack on defense. So, yeah, it's time that they start finding people.
So, that rounds out our top 10. Our next, the next podcast we'll be doing, will be picks 11 through 20.
Yep.
And then following that would be 20 through 32.
Yep.
And yeah.
Let me run through them real quick. Saquon Barkley, Cleveland. Then we had Rosen to the Giants.
Yep.
Bradley Chubb to Indianapolis. Minka Fitzpatrick to Cleveland.
Yep.
Josh Darnold to Denver, right?
Yes.
The Jets get Josh Allen. Tampa Bay gets Denzel Ward. Chicago goes Calvin Ridley. San Francisco gets Garrett Nelson. Is that his name? Quentin Nelson. And then the Raiders get Edmonds, the linebacker.
Yeah, I think that's how I would see it going, obviously. The only thing I see, like, if Kirk Cousins does not sign with Cleveland and goes to Minnesota, I think it goes Sam Darnold at 4, and then I think it goes Josh Allen at 5, and I think at that spot, that's when you see New York either go Quentin Nelson or Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I definitely think that Kirk Cousins is going to play a factor into this draft.
Oh, undoubtedly. And I think that's another thing that could really change Cleveland. I think if Cleveland gets Kirk Cousins, I think for some reason they're going to trade out of that first, which don't do it. Don't do it. Trade the 4th. I'm okay with that. You can find other defensive players, I suppose, but I don't like the other defensive players. I think if you can get Chubb or Fitzpatrick, I mean...
We had 3 quarterbacks go in our first 10 picks.
Yeah. And I think we could even see something crazier. I think we could see Arizona trade up. I think we could see Miami trade up. I think you could see Buffalo trade up. 2 firsts this year, a first next year maybe. Trade all the way up, top 10. That might be able to do it. Maybe you have to toss in a second next year too.
Well, and they said they're not going to release Tyrod Taylor until they're for sure have another quarterback on the roster. So we'll see where that goes.
And he's only has a $6 million.
It's a low, yeah. It's not high at all.
It's not bad. I mean, there's no reason to release him. So yeah,
I agree.
Pending any trades, like I think this is what would happen. But I really think clearly trades are going to happen. They always happen.
Yeah, and to me, this going into the draft would have been a perfect time to trade Marcus Peters.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't like your second round pick? Hold on, we got Marcus Peters. Would you like him? Give us your second round pick and maybe a 5th next year.
Yeah.
That would have worked perfectly. I still don't that whole Marcus Peters situation and the Veach trade just blew my mind.
What blew my mind is they shopped him for 3 weeks and only 2 teams have, like they said 3, but only 2 teams have been named that were interested, and they shopped him around. And that was the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams. Yeah,
maybe just on the surface, teams were saying we're not interested. But the more they watch his film, the more they're going to say we need that playmaker on our team. It doesn't matter if he's a headache because he doesn't come out for the national anthem, or he kneels for the national anthem. He's a playmaker. That's what he does.
Honestly, what I thought was going to happen when I heard he was being shopped was I was like, oh, there he goes with the Patriots for the 31st overall pick. Like I was just like, because Patriots, they'll take that attitude for like a 1-year deal because they're making a push for a Super Bowl again. They're that team. Maybe Pittsburgh does it. Maybe they're like, okay, well, Jacksonville messed us up. We're going to do that now. And I was just like, oh. I do think that maybe Kansas City did not want to trade him to the same conference.
Right, so that knocks out 3 teams, right?
Yeah. So then, it kind of leaves you with the LA Rams. I could have seen them trading, this is a player that I would have loved for them to see him trade for because, one, he's a linebacker who struggled being with that team, although I think he would still struggle with the Chiefs because they're both 3-4s, and in college he ran a 4-3, and that was Hassan Reddick of the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah. I loved him before the draft, and that's last year. That's who I wanted the Eagles to go after, but for some reason they just couldn't. They couldn't figure out a way to get him involved with Arizona, and I actually thought the way but even the day that somebody told me, it was Glenn, told me that the Alex Smith got traded to Washington. I was like, no. I was like, do you know that for sure? He's like, not yet, but he's like, I'm pretty sure. And I was like, I don't see that happening. I think Arizona makes a better offer. I think Arizona offers, I was like, I don't know what the offer is, but I was like, I could see them offering a second to Hassan Reddick. And I was like, Yeah, like bet. But I think the reason why, I mean, you see Alex Smith go for Kendall Fuller is because I think they had it planned the whole time to get rid of Peters.
Yeah, I think so too.
They were trying to get solid enough to get
rid of him. Yeah, that's what I think too. It was another move on top of another move, is what that was.
Yeah, I mean, playing chess.
Yep.
But the Chiefs were playing checkers.
All right, let's wrap up our top 10 for this year.
All right.
All you.
All me?
Go for it. I started, so you can end it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the first podcast of the new year. Sorry it's been kind of long since our last podcast. Life's been changing. I have a baby due in April 6th.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Her name's Sophia Lynn. But thank you all for listening. We're going to try and get the other podcast out probably by next Sunday and just go from there. Yeah.
Sounds good to me. Again, we've had 1,220 hits on our website, by the way.
Yeah, and it probably would have been a lot more. I feel like I let everybody down. I don't want anybody to blame Tom or Anthony. There was, like me, life events were coming first. Tom understood. We had to stop doing the podcast for a while and until things got better situated. But don't forget to come follow us on Facebook, 816 Podcasting. We have a website as well. Follow us on Twitter, at McCoy CE, Tom at Thomas Carlack, Glenn at...
Is it Glenn Smith? I think it's at Glenn Smith.
I think it's at Glenn Smith, but I think it's something cute. I don't know.
Yeah, he is kind of a cute guy.
And Glenn just had his daughter 2 days ago, Charlie. Named after his late father, who was a great, great man. And like his daughter is beautiful and healthy. It's great. Him and Ashley are happy.
At Glenn, Glen, Jammin, JAMIN _ Smith, SMITH.
All right. But yeah, just if you go to our website and all that, all of our Twitters are linked up to that. Thank you all very much, and keep on listening.
Thanks you for listening, guys. Appreciate all the love. Keep it coming. Any questions, comments, leave it on our comments page, Facebook, or 816podcasting.com. Thanks again.